Harper Davis was currently holding a crisis meeting with her own reflection in the mirror of a coffee shop restroom that smelled distinctly of bleach and desperation. It was 8:45 a.m. She had exactly 15 minutes to get to the interview that would decide whether she paid her rent or moved back into her parents' basement in Ohio. She leaned closer to the mirror. A small, brown coffee stain was blooming on the white collar of her blouse like an aggressive flower. Harper groaned, a low, guttural sound of defeat. "You have got to be kidding me," she whispered to her reflection. "You are 26 years old, you graduated top of your class. You can design a sustainable living complex in your sleep. You can certainly handle a beverage without wearing it." She grabbed a rough paper towel and dabbed frantically at the fabric. The stain did not disappear. It merely spread, turning from a speck into a smudge that looked suspiciously like a thumbprint. "Perfect," she muttered. "Now it looks like I was strangled by a barista." Her phone vibrated violently against the porcelain sink. Harper glanced at the screen. It was her landlord. She did not need to answer to know the message. Rent was due yesterday. Her bank account currently contained $42.16. She took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of industrial soap. "Okay, Harper, focus. You are going to walk into Sterling and Stone. You are going to look Mr. Sterling in the eye, whoever he is, and you are going to sell him on your vision. You are a professional. You are an architect of the future. You are not a chaotic mess who talks to her ficus plant." She grabbed her oversized tote bag. It was heavy, weighed down by her laptop and, more importantly, her sketchbook. That sketchbook was her life. It contained 3 years of ideas, chaotic doodles, and unfiltered thoughts she would never show a living soul. She pushed out of the restroom, dodging a man carrying a tray of muffins, and burst onto the busy New York street. The air was freezing, the kind of November cold that bites through cheap coats. Harper pulled her collar up, hiding the coffee stain, and ran. Sterling and Stone was not just a firm, it was the firm. It was a glass monolith piercing the sky, a testament to money, power, and severe minimalism. Harper stopped at the base of the building, craning her neck. It was intimidating. It was beautiful. It was also completely terrifying. "Do not trip," she told herself. "Do not stutter. And for the love of all that is holy, do not mention that you think their lobby looks like a mausoleum for expensive ghosts." Harper spun through the revolving doors and entered the lobby. It was silent, oppressively silent. The floors were polished marble so reflective she could see up her own nose. The walls were gray. The ceiling was gray. The receptionist looked gray. It was impeccable design if you hated joy. She checked her watch. 8:55 a.m. She had 5 minutes to get to the 42nd floor. She sprinted toward the bank of elevators. The doors to the last one were sliding shut. "Hold it," she yelled, forgetting her professional persona entirely. "Please." A hand, clad in an expensive navy suit sleeve, shot out and stopped the door. The metal panels retracted smoothly. Harper threw herself into the car, gasping for air. Her tote bag swung wildly, hitting the paneled wall with a heavy thud. "Thank you," she wheezed, bending over to catch her breath. "Oh my God, I thought I was going to have to scale the side of the building." She straightened up and looked at her savior. The oxygen in the elevator seemed to evaporate instantly. The man standing in the corner was tall. Not just tall, but towering. He wore a suit that cost more than her entire student loan debt. It was tailored to within an inch of its life, emphasizing broad shoulders and a lean frame. His hair was dark, styled with a precision that suggested he measured the strands with a ruler. But it was his eyes that froze her. They were gray, the color of a winter storm, and they were staring at her with an expression that was 1 part confusion and 3 parts annoyance. "You are welcome," he said. His voice was deep, smooth, and utterly devoid of warmth. Harper swallowed. She tried to smile. "It probably looked like a grimace. Going up?" she asked. The man blinked slowly. "This is an elevator. That is generally the function." "Right." Harper felt her face heat up. "Good point. Logic. I love logic. Big fan." She pressed the button for the 42nd floor. The man did not move. He simply stared forward at the steel doors. Silence stretched between them. It was thick and heavy. Harper, who was allergic to silence, felt the words bubbling up in her throat. "Nice building," she said, gesturing vaguely. "A bit cold though, right? I mean the lobby. It is impressive, sure, if you are going for that evil lair vibe, but would it kill them to add a plant? Maybe a chair that looks like you can sit on it without needing a chiropractor." The man turned his head slowly. He looked at her as if she were a new species of insect. "The design is intentional," he said. "It projects stability, order, permanence." "It projects 'do not touch me,'" Harper countered. "Is beautiful, but it is soulless. It is like dating a supermodel who hates puppies." The man's jaw tightened. A muscle jumped in his cheek. "I will keep that in mind," he said dryly. The elevator chimed softly. They were passing the 30th floor. Suddenly the car jolted. It was a violent, shuddering stop. Harper, who had been balancing her second cup of coffee, the one she bought for emotional support, lost her footing. She stumbled forward. The man reached out, presumably to steady her. It was a mistake. Harper's hand flailed. The lid of her coffee cup popped off as if ejected by a spring. Time seemed to slow down. Harper watched in horror as 12 ounces of lukewarm hazelnut latte launched into the air. It defied gravity for a split second before obeying the laws of physics and splashing directly onto the man's pristine Italian leather shoes. Liquid splattered up the hem of his navy trousers. The elevator groaned and resumed its ascent, unaware of the tragedy that had just occurred. Harper froze. She looked at the shoes. She looked at the man. The silence this time was not oppressive. It was lethal. "Oh my God," Harper whispered. She dropped to her knees, grabbing a handful of napkins from her pocket. "I am so sorry. I am so sorry." "Do not," the man said. His voice was strained, as if he were physically holding back a scream. "I can fix this," Harper babbled, dabbing frantically at his shoe. "It is hazelnut. It is mostly milk. Does milk stain leather? I feel like milk stains leather." "Miss," the man said, "please, stop." The elevator chimed again. 42nd floor. The doors slid open. The man stepped back, pulling his foot away from her ministrations. He looked down at her, kneeling on the floor surrounded by napkins and the smell of cheap coffee. His gray eyes were cold enough to freeze water. "Have a nice day," he said. He stepped over her tote bag and walked out of the elevator with a stride that was perfectly even, despite the coffee squishing in his left shoe. Harper remained on the floor for a full 10 seconds. "Well," she whispered to the empty car. "That went well." She scrambled up, shoving her napkins into her pocket. She grabbed her tote bag, but in her haste she did not notice that the clasp had come undone during the fall. As she rushed out of the elevator, her beloved, battered sketchbook slid out of the bag and landed softly on the plush carpet of the elevator car, just as the doors slid shut behind her. The Human Resources Department on the 42nd floor was just as gray as the lobby, but at least the carpet swallowed the sound of Harper's hyperventilating. She sat in a stiff chair across from a woman named Patricia, who looked like she had been starched along with her blouse. "So," Patricia said, looking at Harper's resume with mild distaste, "you have a degree from Cornell. Good, but your employment history is sporadic." "I prefer diverse," Harper said, trying to project confidence. "I like to experience different facets of the industry." "You were a freelance drafter for 6 months," Patricia noted, "and before that, I worked at a bakery," Harper admitted. "Architectural cake design. Structural integrity is very important in buttercream." Patricia did not smile. She did not even blink. "Right," she said. "Well, Miss Davis, Sterling and Stone is a prestigious firm. We require absolute dedication. We do not do chaos." "I am not chaos," Harper lied. "I am dynamic energy," Patricia sighed. She placed the resume on the desk. "Look, I will be honest, your portfolio is thin. We usually hire associates with at least 2 years of agency experience." Harper felt the hope draining out of her. "I have ideas," she said, leaning forward. "I have a vision if you just look at my sketches." She reached for her tote bag to grab her sketchbook. Her hand groped around the bottom of the bag. She felt her laptop, her wallet, a granola bar. Her stomach dropped through the floor. The sketchbook was gone. Miss Davis, Patricia asked. Harper's face went pale. I had it. I swear I had it. The door to the office opened abruptly. Patricia jumped. She stood up immediately, smoothing her skirt. Mr. Sterling, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I did not know you were coming down. Harper froze. She knew that name. Everyone in architecture knew that name. Liam Sterling, the CEO. The wunderkind, the man they called the architect of ice. She turned slowly in her chair. Standing in the doorway was the man from the elevator. He had removed his jacket. His shirt was crisp white, rolled up to the elbows, revealing forearms that were surprisingly muscular for a corporate executive. He was holding a leather-bound folder in one hand, and in the other, he was holding a battered, coffee-stained sketchbook with a sticker of a dancing cactus on the cover. Harper made a sound that was half squeak, half whimper. Liam Sterling did not look at Patricia. His gaze was fixed on Harper. It was intense, analytical, and completely unreadable. I found this in the elevator, he said. He walked into the room. The air seemed to shift, gravitating toward him. He placed the sketchbook on Patricia's desk. He tapped the cover with a long finger. Is this yours? He asked Harper. Harper stood up. Her legs felt like jelly. Yes. Yes, it is. Thank you. I must have dropped it when you assaulted my footwear, Liam finished. Patricia gasped. She assaulted you. It was an accident, Harper cried. A hazelnut-flavored accident. Liam ignored Patricia. He opened the sketchbook. Harper wanted to die. She wanted the floor to open up and swallow her whole. That book contained her soul. It also contained a caricature she had drawn of Liam Sterling 3 days ago after reading an article about him, depicting him as a robot with a calculator for a heart. Please do not look at page 14, she prayed silently. Liam flipped through the pages. His expression remained stoic. He paused on a page. Harper craned her neck. It was a sketch of the Sterling and Stone lobby, but in her version she had torn out the marble floors. She had added curved wooden benches, cascading greenery from the ceiling and warm, amber lighting. At the bottom of the page, scrawled in her messy handwriting, were the words, "Symmetry is boring. Life is messy. Let the building breathe." Liam read the words aloud. His voice was low. "Let the building breathe," he repeated. He looked up at her. "You think my building is suffocating?" Harper straightened her spine. She had nothing left to lose. She was broke, she had ruined his shoes, and she was definitely not getting this job. "Yes," she said clearly. Patricia made a choking sound. "Miss Davis." Harper continued, ignoring the HR manager. "Architecture is not just about lines and angles, Mr. Sterling. It is about how people feel when they walk into a space. Your lobby makes people feel small. It makes them feel like they are trespassing in a temple. It should make them feel welcome. It should feel like a handshake, not a cold shoulder." Liam stared at her. The silence stretched for 5 seconds, 10. He looked back down at the sketch. Then he turned the page. Harper stopped breathing. There it was, page 14, the drawing of Robot Liam. He was square-jawed, stiff, and holding a sign that said "Beep Boop, do not touch the art." Liam stared at the drawing. Harper prepared herself to be escorted out by security. The corner of Liam's mouth twitched. It was microscopic, but it was there. "The resemblance is striking," he said dryly, "especially the antennae." He closed the book. He looked at Patricia. "Hire her," he said. Patricia's jaw dropped. "Excuse me, sir." "Hire her," Liam repeated. "Junior associate. Put her on the restoration team." "But sir," Patricia stammered, "she has no agency experience. She is unconventional. She is honest," Liam said. "And she clearly has an eye for detail, considering she captured my lack of emotion so perfectly in graphite." He turned back to Harper. "You start tomorrow, 8 a.m. sharp. And Miss Davis." "Yes." Harper breathed, clutching the edge of the desk. "No coffee in the elevator." He turned and walked out of the room, leaving the scent of expensive cologne and ozone in his wake. The euphoria of being hired lasted exactly 24 hours. At 8 a.m. the next morning, Harper arrived at Sterling and Stone, ready to conquer the world. She was wearing her best blazer, the one without stains, and she had triple-checked the lid on her travel mug. She reported to the 45th floor, the design hub. It was a hive of activity. Architects were huddled over large touchscreens. Models of skyscrapers were displayed on pedestals, and the view of the city was breathtaking. I can get used to this, Harper thought, smiling. Then she met Alara Vance. Alara was the design director. She was a woman who looked like she had been carved out of the same marble as the lobby floors. She was beautiful, terrifying, and radiated an aura of absolute coldness. So Alara said, looking Harper up and down, "You are the charity case." "Excuse me?" Harper asked, her smile faltering. Alara walked around her, circling like a shark. "Liam hired you on a whim. He does that sometimes. He thinks he sees spark in chaos. I usually have to clean up the mess a month later when the spark burns the house down. I am not a mess," Harper said firmly. "I'm a qualified architect." Alara smirked. It was not a nice smile. "We will see. Until then, you are not touching any actual designs. I do not trust you with a stylist, let alone a client." Alara gestured to the elevator. "Your office is downstairs." "Downstairs?" Harper asked. "Like floor 44. Basement level 2, Alara said. "The archives." 10 minutes later, Harper found herself in a room that smelled of dust and old paper. There were no windows. The only light came from fluorescent strips that hummed with a headache-inducing frequency. Her desk was a metal table squeezed between a stack of filing cabinets and a large, menacing industrial scanner. Her task, as Alara had explained with gleeful malice, was to digitize the firm's entire backlog of physical blueprints from the 1980s to the 2000s. It was a job for an intern or a robot. Harper sat down. She looked at the mountain of dusty rolls of paper. "Okay," she whispered to the empty room, started from the bottom. Literally. She grabbed the first roll. By 2 p.m., Harper was covered in paper dust. Her eyes burned. She had scanned 300 blueprints, and the pile did not look any smaller. She was also starving. She spun around in her chair and kicked the filing cabinet. "This is purgatory," she announced to the room. "I am in architectural purgatory. My sin was hubris and hazelnut creamer." Suddenly, the door to the archive room opened. Harper spun around, expecting Alara coming to mock her. It was Liam. He stood in the doorway, looking out of place in the dingy basement. His suit was gray today, sharp as a knife blade. "You talk to yourself," he observed. Harper jumped up, knocking over a stack of files. They slid across the floor with a soft hiss. "Mr. Sterling," Harper scrambled to pick them up. Yes, sometimes it helps the creative process." "Scanning old schematics requires a creative process?" he asked, stepping into the room. He looked around the cramped space. He frowned. "Why are you down here?" "Alara assigned me here," Harper said, dusting off her skirt. "She said I needed to understand the history of the firm before I could contribute to its future, or something poetic like that. Basically, she thinks I am incompetent." Liam walked over to the scanner. He ran a finger along the metal edge. "Alara protects her territory," he said. He looked at Harper. His gray eyes were analyzing her again, dissecting her. "Are you incompetent, Miss Davis?" Harper stood up straighter. "No, I am actually extremely competent. I am also very good at Tetris, which is basically what architecture is if you think about it." Liam stared at her. "Tetris," he repeated. "Yes, fitting shapes together to make them disappear." "Wait, no, that is a bad metaphor. We want the buildings to stay." Harper sighed. "Look, Mr. Sterling, I know I am the weird girl who spilled coffee on you. I know I am not polished like Alara or anyone else here, but I work hard, and I have good ideas. If you give me a chance to design something, I promise I won't disappoint you." Liam remained silent. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, silver object. It was a USB drive. He held it out to her. "The boutique hotel project on Fifth Avenue," he said. "The client wants a concept for the penthouse suite. Alara's team is stuck. They keep designing generic luxury. Gold taps, velvet curtains." He dropped the drive into Harper's hand. Her palm tingled where his fingers brushed hers. "Give me something different," he said. "You have 48 hours. Harper stared at the drive. "Wait, you want me to design the penthouse?" "Does Alara know?" "No," Liam said, "and let's keep it that way. If the design is good, I will present it. If it is bad, we never speak of this and you go back to scanning until you are 60. Harper gripped the drive. Why are you doing this? She asked. Liam turned to the door. He paused, his hand on the handle. Because, he said, looking back at her over his shoulder. You were right about the lobby. He opened the door. And Miss Davis, yes, get out of the basement. Use the design lab on 45. Just try not to break anything. It was 11:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. The city outside the floor-to-ceiling windows of the 45th floor was a grid of golden lights, but inside the office was dark and silent, except for one desk lamp. Harper was huddled over a drafting table, her hair tied up in a messy bun held together by a pencil. She was surrounded by sketches, fabric swatches, and empty granola bar wrappers. She was in the zone. She was murmuring to herself, sketching a curved wall with frantic strokes. No, straight lines are for prisons, she muttered. It needs to flow. It needs to feel like water. She erased the line aggressively. Eraser shavings flew everywhere. A shadow fell across her desk. Water can be destructive if not contained, a deep voice said. Harper screamed. It was a short, sharp shriek. She spun around on her stool, clutching her charcoal stick like a dagger. Liam Sterling was standing 3 feet away. He had discarded his jacket. His tie was loosened, a shocking display of informality. He held 2 cardboard cups in his hands. You walk like a ninja, Harper accused, her heart hammering against her ribs. Do you have silent shoes? Is that a billionaire thing? Stealth technology for footwear. Liam ignored the question. He walked forward and placed one of the cups on her desk. Tea, he said, Earl Grey, hot. Harper stared at the cup. You brought me tea. I was in the building. I saw the light. Security protocols require me to investigate unauthorized late-night activity. You are the CEO, Harper said, picking up the cup. It was wonderfully warm. Do you really do your own security sweeps? I like the building at night, Liam admitted. It is quiet. Sense. He pulled a chair from a nearby desk and sat down. He did not ask for permission. He just sat, crossing his long legs. Show me what you have, he said. Harper hesitated. It was messy. It was unfinished. But looking at Liam, she realized he wasn't looking for polish. He was looking for the idea. She slid the sketch over. It is for the hotel suite, she explained. The concept is the pause. New York is loud. It is fast. I want the room to be the opposite. Liam studied the drawing. He traced the curve of the wall she had just drawn. Soundproof acoustic paneling disguised as textured art, he noted. Smart. Harper nodded, warming up. Exactly. And the lighting. No overheads. Everything is floor level or recessed. It mimics dusk. It triggers the brain to release melatonin. And this? Liam pointed to a circular structure in the center of the room. It is a conversation pit, Harper said, but filled with sensory pillows. A pillow pit, Liam said flatly. A sensory immersion zone, Harper corrected. Adults need to play too, Liam. When was the last time you just flopped onto something soft? Liam looked at her. His gaze dropped to her mouth for a fraction of a second, then snapped back to her eyes. I do not flop, he said. You should try it, Harper said, grinning. It is good for the soul. She took a sip of the tea. It was perfect. Why are you here, Liam? Really? Liam leaned back. He looked tired. The mask of the perfect CEO had slipped just a fraction. I was working on the budget projections for the next quarter, he said. The numbers. They are comforting. They have answers. People do not have answers. Harper asked softly. People are variables, Liam said. They lie, they change, they spill coffee on you. Numbers remain constant. 2 plus 2 is always 4. That sounds lonely, Harper said. Liam looked out the window at the skyline. It is efficient, he countered. Harper grabbed a piece of charcoal. She flipped to a fresh page in her sketchbook. Give me your hand, she said. Liam blinked. What, your hand? Give it to me. He hesitated, then slowly extended his right hand. It was large, with long, elegant fingers. Harper placed her hand next to his on the paper. She traced the outline of his hand, then hers overlapping it. She shaded the intersection quickly. 2 hands, she said. Separate, they are just hands, together. She sketched a quick structure rising from the overlapping space, an arch. Together, they create support. An arch cannot stand with just one side, Liam. It needs the tension of the other side to hold it up. That is not a variable, that is physics. Liam looked at the drawing. He looked at his own hand, which was still resting on the paper inches from hers. He looked up at Harper. The air in the room suddenly felt very thin. "You argue with physics?" he asked softly. "Only when it gets in the way of a good metaphor," she whispered. Liam didn't move. He didn't pull his hand away. For a moment Harper thought he might lean in. The thought terrified and thrilled her. Then the elevator chimed in the distance. The cleaning crew, the spell broke. Liam stood up abruptly. He buttoned his cuffs. "Finish the design," he said. His voice was back to its corporate chill. "I want it on my desk by 9 a.m. He turned to leave. "Liam," Harper called out. He stopped. "Thank you for the tea." He didn't look back. 2 plus 2 is 4, Miss Davis, he said, but arches are structurally sound. He walked into the shadows. Harper sat there for a long time, staring at the drawing of their hands. "Okay," she whispered to the empty office. "I think I am in trouble." The next morning, the presentation meeting was brutal. Alara Vance sat at the head of the glass table, looking like a queen presiding over an execution. Her team had presented their idea, Gilded Age Revival. It was heavy, gold, and looked like a museum where you weren't allowed to touch anything. Liam sat at the opposite end. He had been silent for an hour. "Does anyone else have a concept?" Alara asked, her tone suggesting that the answer should be no. "I do," Harper said. She stood up. Her legs were shaking, but she clutched her USB drive like a weapon. Alara laughed. It was a cold, tinkling sound. "The intern." Alara looked at Liam. "Liam, surely you are not going to waste our time with." "Let her speak," Liam said. He did not look up from his tablet. Alara's eyes narrowed. She leaned back, crossing her arms. "Fine, entertain us." Harper plugged in the drive. The screen lit up with her rendering. Soft curves, warm light, the sensory pit. It looked inviting. It looked like a hug in architectural form. "I call it the pause," Harper began. She talked for 10 minutes. She spoke about the psychology of rest, about texture, about human connection. When she finished, the room was silent. One of the senior architects nodded slowly. "It is. Daring. It is a daycare center," Alara snapped. She stood up, slamming her hand on the table. "Pillows, curved walls. This is a luxury hotel, not a hippie commune. Our clients want opulence. They want to feel rich. This design makes them feel like they are in therapy. It is unprofessional," Alara continued, turning to Liam. "It lacks the sophistication of the Sterling brand. It is messy, just like her." Harper felt the tears stinging her eyes. She looked at Liam. "Defend me," she pleaded silently. "You liked it. You understood it." Liam stared at the screen. He looked at Alara. Then he looked at Harper. His face was a mask of stone. "The market research suggests a trend toward wellness," Liam said neutrally. "However, Alara is right about the branding alignment." Harper felt like she had been punched in the stomach. "The design is risky," Liam continued. He stood up. "But risk is necessary. We will go with Harper's concept for the beta test." Alara gasped. "What?" Liam gathered his files. "But refine it, Miss Davis. Alara will supervise you. Ensure the materials are premium, no beanbags." He walked out of the room without looking at Harper. Harper stood there, stunned. He had approved it, but he had also thrown her to the wolves. Alara walked up to Harper. She leaned in close. She smelled of expensive perfume and venom. "You might have won this battle, Charity Case," Alara whispered. "But you will not survive the war. I will make sure of it." 3 days later, Harper was on the roof. She had discovered the roof access by accident while looking for a place to cry where the acoustics weren't quite so echoing. It was windy. The noise of the city was a distant hum below. She sat on the ledge, dangling her feet, safely back from the edge, eating a stale pretzel. "I hate him," she told the skyline. "He is a robot. A handsome, well-dressed robot who gives mixed signals." "Mixed signals are a sign of inefficient communication," a voice said. Harper didn't even jump this time. She just sighed. "You really need to put a bell on your neck, Mr. Sterling." Liam stepped out from the stairwell. He walked over and stood beside her. He looked out at the Empire State Building. "Alara is riding me hard," Harper said, staring at her pretzel. "She made me redo the lighting plan 6 times. She said my choice of lumen output was aggressive." "It was," Liam said. Harper glared at him. "Whose side are you on?" I am on the side of the design, Liam said. He sat down next to her on the dirty concrete roof. In his $3,000 suit, Harper watched him. He looked uncomfortable, like he was trying to figure out how to be a human being and finding the manual missing pages. "Why did you bring me tea that night?" Harper asked. Liam looked at his hands. "Because you were working late, and because I wanted to see you." Harper stopped chewing. Liam turned to face her. The wind whipped his dark hair across his forehead. "You are chaotic, Harper. You are loud. You spill things. You question my authority. You draw me as a robot." He reached into his pocket. He pulled out her sketchbook, the one she thought she had lost again. He opened it to the robot drawing. "But you also see things I do not. You see the gaps between the numbers." He handed the book back to her. "Alara is a shark," Liam said. "I know that. But I cannot protect you from her, Harper. Not if you want to be respected in this firm. You have to beat her. You have to be better than her." "I am trying," Harper whispered. "I know." Liam reached out. His hand hovered near her face for a second, then retreated. "On the next page," he said softly, "I wrote something." Harper looked down at the book. She turned the page. There, in precise architectural block lettering, was a note. "Chaos creates structure. Do not let them smooth out your edges." Harper looked up, tears blurring her vision. "Did you just quote yourself?" she asked, laughing through a sob. "It seemed appropriate," Liam said. A hint of a smile touched his lips. Harper wiped her eyes. "Okay, Liam, I will beat her. I will design the best damn hotel suite this city has ever seen." "Good," Liam said. He stood up and brushed the dust off his trousers. "Because the gala is in 2 weeks. And you are presenting it me," Harper squeaked. "To the investors, to everyone," Liam said. "Do not trip." He turned to leave. "Liam," he paused. "You are less of a robot today, maybe a cyborg." Liam actually chuckled. It was a rusty sound, deep and low. "Progress, Miss Davis, progress." The night before the Sterling and Stone annual gala, Harper Davis was vibrating at a frequency usually reserved for hummingbirds and malfunctioning appliances. It was 11 p.m. The design lab was empty, bathed in the soft blue glow of the monitors. Harper sat in front of her computer, staring at the final render of the pause. It was perfect. It was warm, inviting, and statistically unlikely to cause a seizure, unlike Alara's gold-plated nightmare. She inserted her USB drive into the port. The computer acknowledged the device with a soft chime. "Okay," Harper whispered. "Copy, paste, eject. Do not lose this. This drive is your life. If you lose this, you have to move to Antarctica and live with penguins." She pulled the drive out and slipped it into the zippered pocket of her bag. Just as she stood up to leave, the door to the lab opened. Alara walked in. She was wearing a trench coat that looked like it cost more than Harper's entire education. "Working late?" Alara asked. Her voice was smooth, like oil on water. "Just finishing up," Harper said, clutching her bag, checking the files one last time. Alara smiled. It was a terrifying expression. It did not reach her eyes. It barely reached her mouth. "You know, Harper," Alara said, walking over to the window, "I admire your tenacity. Most interns would have quit by now." "The basement usually breaks people. I am not most interns," Harper said. "And I am not an intern anymore. I am a junior associate." Title inflation, Alara dismissed with a wave of her manicured hand. "But good luck tomorrow. The investors can be vicious. If they smell fear, they attack. And you, my dear, smell like cheap vanilla body spray and panic." Harper straightened her spine. "I will be fine, Alara. The design speaks for itself. We will see," Alara said. She turned and walked out. Harper let out a breath she had been holding for 2 minutes. She felt a shiver run down her spine that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. She checked her pocket again. The drive was there. "You are paranoid," she told herself. "She is just trying to psych you out. Go home, sleep, dream of sensory pillows." She left the office. 5 minutes later, the door to the lab opened again. A figure slipped inside. The room was dark, but the silhouette was unmistakable. The figure walked to Harper's desk. They pulled a USB drive from their pocket, identical to Harper's. They looked at the computer, then at the empty desk where Harper had been sitting. "Sabotage," the figure whispered to the empty room, "is an art form." The Sterling and Stone Gala was the event of the season. It was held in the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel. There were chandeliers the size of small cars. There were waiters carrying trays of champagne that cost $50 a glass. Harper stood backstage, trying not to hyperventilate. She was wearing a dress she had rented for the occasion. It was a deep emerald green, silky and elegant. It made her feel like a movie star or an imposter. Definitely an imposter. Liam was out there. He was mingling with the investors. She had seen him earlier. He was wearing a tuxedo. If Harper thought he looked good in a suit, the tuxedo was a weapon of mass destruction. It should be illegal to look that good while discussing interest rates. Miss Davis, a stage manager with a headset, whispered, "You are on in 2 minutes." "Okay," Harper squeaked. "Okay. Breathing is good. I enjoy breathing." She clutched the presentation remote in her sweaty hand. The USB drive was already plugged into the main console. She had checked it herself 10 minutes ago. "Ladies and gentlemen," Liam's voice boomed over the speakers. Harper peeked through the curtain. Liam stood at the podium. He commanded the room effortlessly. "Tonight we look to the future," Liam said, "a future that is not just built but felt. I would like to introduce our lead designer for the Fifth Avenue project, Miss Harper Davis." Applause rippled through the room. Harper walked out. The lights were blinding. She could not see the audience, just a sea of diamonds and dark suits. She reached the podium. Liam stepped back, giving her the stage. As he passed her, he leaned in. "You look structural," he whispered. It was the most Liam Sterling compliment ever. Harper smiled. "Thank you," she whispered back. She turned to the microphone. "Good evening," she said. Her voice shook slightly, then steadied. "Architecture has always been about protecting us from the elements. But what if it could also protect us from the noise of the world?" She pressed the forward button on the remote. Behind her, the massive LED screen flickered to life. Harper turned to look, expecting to see her beautiful, warm rendering of the sensory suite. She did not see the sensory suite. Instead, a video began to play. It was a loop, a crude, brightly colored animation of a stick figure slipping on a banana peel, accompanied by a slide whistle sound effect that echoed through the sophisticated ballroom. The audience went silent. Harper pressed the button again. The slide changed. Now it was a low-resolution photo of a cat wearing sunglasses with the text "I can HAZCHEZBURGER" in Comic Sans font. Laughter bubbled up from the back of the room. Nervous, confused laughter. Harper froze. Her blood turned to ice. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." She pressed the button frantically. The next slide was a distorted selfie of Harper herself, taken by accident months ago, where she had a double chin and was clearly sneezing. The laughter grew louder. It was not nervous anymore. It was mocking. "Miss Davis," someone called out from the front row. "Is this the future of design, memes?" Harper looked at the crowd. She saw Ilara Vance standing near the bar. Ilara was sipping champagne. She was smiling, a wide, predatory smile. There is a mistake," Harper stammered into the microphone. "This is not my file. I checked it." She looked at Liam. He was standing to the side of the stage. His face was unreadable. He was staring at the screen, at the sneezing selfie. Harper felt the tears coming, hot, humiliating tears. "I am sorry," she whispered. "Excuse me." She dropped the remote. It hit the floor with a dull thud. She ran. She ran off the stage, past the confused stage manager and out the side door. The corridor outside the ballroom was empty and quiet. Harper leaned against the wall, sliding down until she hit the floor. She buried her face in her hands. "It's over," she sobbed. "My career is over. I am going to have to change my name and move to a cave. A cave with no Wi-Fi so I never have to see a meme again." The ballroom doors burst open. The sound of heavy footsteps approached. Rapid, angry footsteps. Harper didn't look up. She couldn't bear to see Ilara coming to gloat. "Get up," a voice said. It wasn't Ilara. Harper looked up. Liam was standing over her. He looked furious. His jaw was clenched so tight she thought a tooth might crack. "Liam, I swear," Harper choked out. "I didn't. That wasn't my presentation. Someone switched the files. I checked it." "I know," Liam said. He reached down and grabbed her hand. He pulled her to her feet with a strength that surprised her. "You know," Harper sniffled. "Sabotage requires access," Liam said coldly. "And stupidity leaves a digital footprint." He didn't let go of her hand. He turned and marched back toward the ballroom doors. "Where are we going?" Harper asked, stumbling to keep up in her heels. "Back inside," Liam said. "No," Harper dug her heels into the carpet. "I cannot go back in there. They are laughing at me." "Let them laugh," Liam said, pushing the doors open. "Laughter is a variable, truth is a constant." He dragged her back onto the stage. The room went silent again. The meme of the cat was still frozen on the giant screen. Liam walked to the podium. He took the microphone. "Cut the feed," he ordered the sound booth. The screen went black. Liam looked out at the crowd. He looked terrifying. He looked like a king who had just found someone poisoning his wine. "I apologize for the interruption," Liam said. His voice was low, dangerous. "It appears we have had a security breach." He pulled a tablet from his inside jacket pocket. "Modern architecture relies on transparency," he said. "Glass walls, open concepts. We believe in seeing everything." He tapped the tablet. The giant screen lit up again. This time it wasn't a meme. It was a security log, a list of file transfers. At 11:42 p.m. last night, Liam read, the presentation file on Miss Davis's drive was overwritten. The user ID associated with that action. The screen zoomed in on a name. Evance, Director of Design. Gasps filled the room. All heads turned toward the bar. Ilara Vance dropped her champagne glass. It shattered on the floor, sending shards of crystal and expensive liquid everywhere. Liam continued, his voice devoid of mercy. Furthermore, security footage confirms Miss Vance entering the lab at 11:40 p.m., 5 minutes after Miss Davis departed. Liam looked directly at Ilara. "Sterling and Stone is built on integrity, Ilara, not insecure games. You are fired, effective immediately. Security will escort you out." Two large men in black suits materialized beside Ilara. She looked pale. She looked small. "Liam, you cannot do this," she shrieked as they took her arms. "This is a mistake. She is incompetent." "Get her out," Liam said. He didn't watch her leave. He turned back to the audience. "And now," he said, his voice softening just a fraction, "the real presentation." He tapped his tablet again. The screen shifted. There it was. The pause, the warm lighting, the curves, the sensory pit. It glowed on the screen, beautiful and serene. "I present to you," Liam said, looking at Harper, "the future." He stepped back. Harper stood there, trembling. She looked at Liam. He nodded, a tiny, almost imperceptible motion. "Go," he mouthed. Harper stepped to the microphone. She took a deep breath. "As I was saying," she began, her voice gaining strength, "we need to protect ourselves from the noise." An hour later, Harper was hiding in the coat check room. The presentation had been a success. The investors loved it. One of them actually cried during the slide about emotional acoustics. But Harper was exhausted. Her adrenaline had crashed, leaving her shaking. She sat on a stool surrounded by mink coats and cashmere scarves, holding a glass of water. The door opened. Liam walked in. He had loosened his tie. He looked tired but triumphant. "You are hiding again," he observed. "I am decompressing," Harper corrected. "There is a difference. Also, I think I am legally dead from embarrassment, so technically I am haunting this coat room." Liam closed the door. The noise of the party faded to a dull murmur. "You were excellent," he said. "You fired your design director on stage," Harper said. "That was dramatic. I thought you hated drama." "I hate inefficiency," Liam said. "Ilara was inefficient and malicious." He walked over to her. The room was small. He was very close. "Why did you do it, Liam?" Harper asked softly. "You could have handled it privately on Monday. You did not have to humiliate her." He looked at her. His gray eyes were intense, searching her face. "She tried to humiliate you," he said. "So I am just an associate." "No," Liam said firmly, "you are not just an associate." He took a step closer. Harper's breath caught in her throat. "You are the only person in this entire company who challenges me," he said. "You are the only one who sees the cracks in the foundation." He reached out and touched her cheek. His fingers were warm. "When I saw you on that stage, looking like you wanted to disappear." Liam's voice cracked. "I wanted to burn the building down." Harper stared at him. "That is arson, Liam," she whispered. "Very bad for property value." Liam let out a short, breathless laugh. "You are impossible, Harper." He leaned in. Harper closed her eyes. She felt his breath on her lips. She smelled the sandalwood and crisp linen of his suit. The door handle rattled. "Excuse me." A woman's voice called from the hallway. "I need my chinchilla wrap." Liam pulled back. He looked at the door with annoyed murder in his eyes. "We should." Harper stammered, her face burning. "We should probably get the chinchilla," Liam sighed. He straightened his tie. "Right, the chinchilla." He opened the door, but before he walked out he looked back at her. "Meet me tomorrow," he said. 10 a.m., the lobby. "Why?" Harper asked. "I have a structural issue I need your help with," he said. Harper arrived at the Sterling and Stone building at 9:55 a.m. the next morning. It was Sunday. The building should have been empty. She walked through the revolving doors and stopped dead in her tracks. The lobby. It was gone. Well, the old lobby was gone. The cold, gray mausoleum had been transformed. Overnight, a team of someones, had brought in massive potted olive trees. The marble benches had been covered with warm, velvet cushions in shades of amber and moss green. The harsh overhead lights were dimmed, replaced by floor lamps that cast a soft, golden glow. It was breathing. It was her sketch. Harper walked into the center of the room, stunned. She saw Liam. He was sitting on one of the new cushioned benches, reading a newspaper. He wasn't wearing a suit. He was wearing a soft cashmere sweater and jeans. Liam Sterling owned denim. The world was truly ending. He looked up as she approached. He folded the newspaper. "Functional?" he asked. "It is." "Incredible," Harper breathed. "You did this in one night." "I have resources," Liam said simply. "And a very motivated contractor who owes me a favor." He stood up. He looked nervous. His hands were in his pockets. "Harper," he began. He pulled out a piece of paper. It wasn't a blueprint. It was a document. "I drafted a new contract," he said. Harper frowned. "A contract? Am I being promoted?" "Something like that." He handed her the paper. Harper read it. "Partnership agreement between Liam Sterling, the party of the first part, and Harper Davis, the party of the second part. Clause 1. The party of the first part promises to acknowledge that feelings are valid data points, not system errors. Clause 2. The party of the second part promises to prevent the party of the first part from becoming a robot, primarily through the use of bad metaphors and hazelnut coffee. Clause 3. Both parties agree that symmetry is overrated and that the best structures are built on shared foundations. Harper looked up. Her hands were shaking. "Liam?" He took a step closer. "I do not have a manual for this, Harper," he said softly. "I understand steel. I understand glass. I do not understand how you make me feel like my heart is beating out of rhythm." He took a deep breath. "But I want to learn. I want to build something with you, not a building. A life." Harper dropped the paper. It fluttered to the floor, landing on the new, soft rug. "Are you proposing a merger?" she asked, smiling through tears. "I am proposing a hostile takeover of your heart," Liam said solemnly. "That was a terrible line," Harper laughed. "I know. I found it on the internet." He reached out and took her hands. "Harper Davis, will you be my partner, in every sense of the word?" Harper looked at the transformed lobby. She looked at the man who had moved mountains and furniture just to make her smile. "Yes," she whispered, "I will." Liam let out a breath of relief. "Good," he said. "That is statistically the best outcome." "Oh, shut up," Harper said. She grabbed the lapels of his cashmere sweater and pulled him down. She kissed him. It wasn't a polite, corporate kiss. It was messy. It was chaotic. It was full of passion and relief and coffee. It was perfect. 6 months later, the apartment in Brooklyn was a blend of two worlds. On one side, there was a sleek, minimalist bookshelf organized by color and height. That was Liam. On the other side, there was a jungle of plants, a pile of colorful throw pillows, and a half-finished painting on an easel. That was Harper. It was 7 a.m. Harper was in the kitchen, wrestling with the new espresso machine. It looked like a spaceship engine. "Why do we need a machine with 14 buttons?" she groaned. "I just want caffeine, Liam, not a degree in engineering." Liam walked into the kitchen. He was buttoning his shirt, crisp, white, perfect. He kissed the top of her messy head. "Button 3, he said, then lever 2. He reached past her and pressed the buttons with fluid grace. The machine hummed a soft, expensive sound and began to dispense rich, dark coffee. "Show off," Harper muttered. Liam smiled. He leaned against the counter, sipping his own cup. He looked at the refrigerator. Held up by a magnet shaped like a taco was a crumpled, coffee-stained piece of paper. Symmetry is boring, life is messy. And right next to it was a thick, cream-colored envelope. "Save the date. Harper and Liam. Are you ready for the board meeting today?" Liam asked. Harper grabbed her coffee. "I was born ready. I have a proposal for a playground on the roof of the headquarters." Liam choked on his coffee. "A playground?" "Yes, with a slide for executive stress relief." Liam stared at her. He wiped his mouth. "I will veto the slide," he said. "We will see." Harper grinned. She walked over and straightened his tie. She patted his chest. "I love you, robot. I love you, chaos," Liam replied. He watched her walk out of the kitchen, her tote bag swinging, her sketchbook under her arm. He looked back at the espresso machine. Maybe a slide wouldn't be so bad, he whispered to the empty room. He grabbed his briefcase and followed her out the door.